Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. What's going to happen to cryptocurrency and Bitcoin stuff? Well, I've made an awful lot of predictions for you guys over the years. Sometimes they take a little bit longer to come true, but right now we're in the middle of the prediction that I made of what I call a deflationary spike event. And this is with the banks collapsing and stuff, liquidity shortage. It's all deflationary within the system. But, the response on the other side of that is to print, and it's always going to be to print. When the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And to really understand what's going to happen with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies moving forward into the future, you have to understand infrastructure. So I'm going to digress for just a little bit with you guys, but it's integral to you guys understanding what's going to happen with cryptocurrencies. There was a tremendous build-out during the credit expansion years of this monetary Ponzi scheme. You guys know the 1970s, the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s. Credit was expanding. They were building out infrastructure. They were building out roads. Roads that hadn't been paved before were freshly paved with asphalt. Also, the world's population was growing with this expansion of credit. 2008 was the first warning signal of a contraction in the credit supply. This monetary system is based on infinite growth. And we're on a finite planet. We got a model based on growth. Growth itself isn't exponential. And, that's fine if you got an infinite planet. Or you got new planets to conquest. That growth model might work. But it grew, and it grew until 2008, and that was our first contraction in the real world that affected into the monetary supply. So what did they do? They continued to expand the monetary supply while the world would finally reach saturation. They had moved into the furthest rainforests and cut down the trees. They had expanded out infrastructure as far as they could expand on a non-infinite planet, on a finite planet. And so we seen a contraction. 2008 was that contraction. They've been expanding it, and by expanding the monetary supply only, where the real world's not expanding any longer, it's contracting. So we got expanding monetary supply and a contracting system or real world. What it leads to ultimately in the end is decay of the real world while the monetary supply keeps expanding. This leads towards something called hyperinflation ultimately in the end. And they're not going to let the system fail. They're going to keep trying to print their way out of everything, And this has been proven true over and over and over again. It's been proven true just in the last week or two, where the monetary supply starts to try to contract within the banking system. And what do? If everything looks like a nail, then you use your hammer if it's your only tool, and the hammer is the printing press. And they don't actually have to print the money now. They just come out and they say, okay, we've just decided to fund whatever with $100 billion here and $100 billion there. Oh, by the way, those employees of the bank, like Credit Suisse employees, we give them $18 million in bonuses or whatever, They're just throwing the money around left and right. It's because they don't know what to do with this situation, and there's nothing they can do. Next big thing they're thinking about doing, central bank digital currencies the CBDCs, to try to stop all of this bleeding that's happening to them. They're looking for answers when there is no answer because they're in the middle of a contracting Ponzi scheme. It's contracting, it's shrinking. And with it is going to shrink the expanding years. When the whole world was expanding, now we're into contraction. You can see it on your own personal basis. Maybe you live out on one of those roads, that they paved in the 1980s or 1990s. They may have paved your road out to your place. Maybe your place is out in the country. Now what do you see? You see potholes developing. You see cracks all in your road everywhere. And soon, your road is just going to be nothing back but dirt again. Well, this is what's on a bigger scale. This is what's happening with the entire system. And it's going to happen to the electrical power grid. And see, just look at countries like Venezuela, what they experienced during their hyperinflation. They couldn't keep their power grid up and running. They couldn't keep their grocery stores full of food. The people on average lost like 20 pounds of weight, I mean, the average citizen, they were stopping trucks on the side of the road. They were so desperate and hungry and stealing animals off of the trucks and for food. Look at that, things like this on a worldwide scale. But we're not there yet. Infrastructure still functions. You still have power to your house right now. Okay? What we're going through is the initial phases of all this. And I'm not going to deny it. Cryptocurrency works really well in this modern system where we have electricity and we have infrastructure. You can send a piece of a Bitcoin halfway around the world in less than 5 minutes. It's there. Try doing that with a piece of silver. You can't. But silver has things and gold has things that Bitcoin doesn't have. It exists in the real world. It can function in a system. Before we had electricity, what do you think they used? Silver. So all the coins in the United States before 1965 were all silver. Because that fits in a world where you don't have this electronic computerized system that's able to send money across something called the internet that we didn't have. I remember when we didn't have the internet. Yeah, I'm that old. And so what happens if we go back to a world that doesn't have the internet? Well, we're not there yet. We have the internet. So we're going to save that argument. Okay? So here's the thing, guys. Gold and silver are also limited in supply, very, very sharply in according to silver. Very limited in supply, And it can disappear overnight if we have some sort of a financial crisis that's impending right now, this financial crisis. This is not over by a long shot. Gold and silver can disappear. So this is what I expect to happen. I expect gold and silver. You're just not going to be able to buy it. It's going to be unobtainium. And, when something does something like that, the price shoots to the moon, by the way. Of course, that's obvious to you guys. If you can't obtain something and everybody wants it, just think about that for a minute. Let it sink in. Okay? But you're not going to be able to buy it. Do you know how much liquidity that they've created in this system? The gold and silver is going to, I've been saying this for years, the gold and silver is going to disappear first. You're not going to be able to buy it, so what's the point? After it's all gone, nobody's selling it, and the price is going up and up and up and up. And the big money's still floating around out there, and that they're printing a lot more to try to save the system. The system will be collapsing, and they'll be just printing high, wide, and handsome, and they'll switch over to a CBDC, and then they don't have to print. They just push a bunch of buttons, and they create all this new CBDC out there and try to stimulate the system back again, get it revived. Basically, it's like a patient that's on a bed dying, and they're trying to pump him full of drugs to get his heart to beat. And look at the money like the drug, and they're giving him all these drugs in the hospital to try to get his heart to beat. Pumping it right in with big needles. Well, this would be the injections of liquidity into the system. Can't chase after gold and silver any longer. There ain't none to be had. And every time they make a new injection into the patient to try to get his heart to beat, gold and silver will go up another, how many percent? Higher and higher and higher. But what's the point? You can't buy any. Like I said, it's physical. It's a real thing. They're not going to want the SLV and GLD, the paper short contracts for gold and silver. They're not going to want that. They're going to want the real physical. But they're going to have trillions by then. The Fed will be creating the trillion, like I explained to you guys. The trillion is the new word for billion. And soon it will be quadrillion, will be the new word for trillion. I mean, this is where they're going with this money printing thing to try to save the system. So you reach the point where you can't buy gold and silver. That money is going to try to head after something of value, something that they can put their, something that they can actually have that has no counterparty risk. Well, a lot of it's going to filter down into cryptos. So then what's going to happen is we're going to start to experience the things that Venezuela experienced. Around the world, though, because this is a worldwide phenomenon. This is a worldwide simultaneous contraction of the system. Like, it's a hyperinflationary depression. So ultimately what's going to happen is they're not going to be able to support the entire power grid. It's kind of like they're not able to support the entire infrastructure of roads and things. You know how your road goes into decay, the pavement all cracks apart. Well, the power grid's going to do the same thing. And areas are going to go down. Large, expansive areas are going to go down. Maybe for months. So people that live in all these large, expansive areas that going to go down at a certain point, how are they going to do their transactions in cryptocurrencies then? And if your power grid's down over a wide area, how do you transact in cryptocurrencies? How do you do that? You don't. The utility of Bitcoin relies upon the power grid. So what we're going to look at is all this massive, and this is a hard roller coaster for you guys to understand, but follow me. We're going to see a massive, after gold and silver are gone, and they've made their moonshot, we're going to see the overflow of money, of what we call money, which is basically Federal Reserve notes, the overflow. We're going to see it flow into cryptos. And this is why they're writing all these White House reports and slamming crypto and everything else, because they want it all to flow into they all want their CBDC, and they see Bitcoin as a competition. But nevertheless, it's going to flow into crypto. It's going to flow into crypto, and this is going to help increase the rate of inflation, not help. Because when somebody buys a Bitcoin, takes their money out of the bank, decides to buy a Bitcoin, now suddenly what that money flows into the Bitcoin, and it increases the velocity of money on the other end, because it comes out of the Bitcoin into real merchandise and chases real goods and services. Basically, like the guy that had the Bitcoin, say Bitcoin price goes to $250,000, and the guy buys the Bitcoin, he takes his $250,000 out of the bank to buy the Bitcoin. He purchases it, and the other guy gets the $250,000. Well, because the currency is hyperinflating, they want to spend it as fast as they get it. So now that money was sitting in the bank. It had a net velocity of zero. That $250,000 he paid for the Bitcoin, right? A net velocity of zero. Now suddenly he spent it on the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin has a net velocity of zero. But because he's going to save that Bitcoin, that's what he bought it for, because the price is going up. But the money he spent on it now suddenly is being spent into the economy, chasing goods and services, so it speeds up the velocity of money for the fiat. If you can understand all that. I think you guys got the gist of that, So it speeds up the velocity of money, speeding up the hyperinflation even faster. And we're talking about money flows But, you know, the Bitcoin's only going to work as long as this system collapses. The Bitcoin is going to reach a point, probably when it's at its highest price ever seen. Infrastructure is going to collapse to the point where the power grid's going to cease to function properly, and it's not going to support the Bitcoin so that the Bitcoin can be transmitted. So people are resourceful. What's going to happen? The fiat currency isn't going to be able to cover it because it's gone to worthless, or practically worthless. Nobody wants that crap at that point. So, see, you got to move your mind through the ether right now to the time in the future and see what I'm talking about. See a time where you get months-long grid down in certain areas. People can't transact in their Bitcoin any longer. People don't want to use the dollar because it's going downhill every day. I mean, the price, they went out to buy an apple yesterday and it was $200, and today it's $400, and tomorrow it'll be $800. So it's ceasing to function as a monetary unit. What's left? That's when gold and silver are going to start to shine again in their real function that they've had for 7,000 years. They're fungible. Gold and silver both are fungible. You don't even have to have them in a coin form. They're fungible by weight. This is a very important thing. Of course, this fungible by weight goes along with also the they have to be pure gold and silver to be fungible by weight. So basically, fungibility just means that whatever one other guy's got's worth the same as what you got. So if one guy's got a $5 bill in his pocket, it's worth the same as your $5 bill. That's fungibility. And gold and silver have perfect fungibility. 999 silver or 999 gold is worth the same as the other guy's weight of 999 gold that he's got. So if you got 1 ounce of 999 gold in your pocket, doesn't matter what form it's in. It could be a lump, could be a coin, could be anything. But if it's 999 pure and it weighs 1 ounce, and the other guy's got 999 pure and it weighs 1 ounce, it's both worth exactly the same amount of money. That's fungibility, and it's perfectly fungible. It's a store of value that's lasted through the ages. And so, of course, people are going to go back to using it in transaction. Nobody can stop them. Nobody can stop a black market. That's why it's called a black market. And so, when the cryptocurrency cease to function properly in this situation, that's when you're going to see their value go down. So you're going to see their value go exceedingly high. What does all that mean? Let me sum it up for you guys. Now's the sum up. The sum up is, first we're going to see gold and silver disappear and the price is going to go to the moon. Cryptocurrency is going to be in there for the ride. And the cryptocurrency then is going to swing into gear, and then the price on it's going to go to the moon. Only until the system starts to disintegrate. Then cryptocurrency is going to fail. So we might see the Bitcoin price go into the millions. We might see the price of gold and silver go astronomically high like you've never ever seen before in your life, or could even possibly imagine. And meanwhile, you're going to see when all this is happening, you're going to see the purchasing power of your dollars disintegrate. They're not going to be able to buy nothing with them. It's just going to get to the point where you gotta go, if you want to go grocery shopping, you're going to have at least $10,000 with you just to go grocery shopping. Honey, I gotta go. I'm going to stop with my friends at the restaurant today, and we're going to have coffee or whatever, and I need a little bit of money. And he says, how much do you need? And she says, $30,000. Here, hon, here's the $30,000. Go and have yourself a good time. You know, this is how it's going to be with fiat. But by that time, can you imagine what the price of gold and silver is going to be? And crypto's going to do the same thing. But then we're going to hit this point where the infrastructure starts to fail. Electrical grid starts to fail. And what good is your gold and silver, your Bitcoin, in a failing electrical grid? Because that's what it relies upon. See, Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies have counterparty risk. The counterparty risk is the electrical grid. Gold and silver are the only bulletproof things out there. They're bulletproof. So now you know what's going to happen. Bitcoin is going to do very well until the system starts to really fail. And then gold and silver are going to shine. Like they have for 7,000 years. So what's going to restore our system when it starts to fail? Well, you have to have commerce, or you got no system. You do not have civilization without commerce. And kicking and screaming, this world is going to go back and have to use gold and silver as a means of commerce to restore itself. And will it ever restore itself to the glory it had before the year 2020? Where we were expanded out the way we were? No, this system is going to contract, and it might take thousands of years to get back to what we had. It's going to contract so hard and so bad. And what's this going to do? See, what's this going to do to the population of the earth? Well, let's just say that humanity right now, is an endangered species. So these people out there right now who are saying, oh, the earth's being overpopulated. Well, we've already turned the corner on that. Sorry. We've already turned the corner on that. First off, fertility is dropping off a cliff. If you haven't got fertility, you have in the human population, well, right off, that's a first danger signal. Of your next generation, you ain't gonna have any yet. We're only 2 generations away from extinction. Maybe not quite that severe, but yeah, maybe that severe, considering all the radiation, plastic chemicals and everything, poison-tainted food, bad air, climate, everything coming together, food shortages, the whole thing coming together. When you look at the whole package, I'm not even talking about war. So anyway, I've had a little bit of a rant here. What you can expect is that an investment in gold, silver, and cryptos, that's where to go right now. And especially gold and silver. Your parents always told you when you were sitting at the table, they said, eat your vegetables first. Well, you're going to invest in these things. Make sure you pack your real physical gold and silver away first, and then you can dabble in crypto a little bit. It's like eating your vegetables first, it's what's healthy for you. And if you're going to dabble in crypto, be careful. Learn how to use it first. Experiment with it a little bit. Find out how it functions. Just don't go out there and buy a big gob of Bitcoin and then put the wrong numbers in or something and transfer it off into the ether someplace and you can't even get it back, or lose your passwords or whatever. Because there's a big learning curve to cryptos. So if it's new to you, don't jump right in. But there's no real learning curve to gold and silver. Real physical gold and silver. All you got to do is find a reputable company. Like, I could name off a number of reputable companies. Companies that have a long, who have been dealing in gold and silver for years and have a big customer base and are reputable. Very reputable. Find a reputable company that sells gold and silver. And, kind of purchase what you want from them, but more than likely you're going to get real gold and real silver from them, and it's going to be 999 pure, and that's what you want. It's up to you whether you want to go for coins or bars or whatever, but also just consider, when you're buying gold and silver, consider the other end that, you don't want to have, all you got is you've bought one 10-ounce gold bar. To say that's what you did. You went out and bought one 10-ounce gold bar, or 1 kilo of gold if you're real rich or whatever, and you bought one or whatever, When the crisis comes, how are you going to spend that? It's overkill times 10. Wouldn't it be better to have a little bit of fractional silver, like a 1/4 ounce silver or even 1 ounce silver? Wouldn't it be better to go in there and pay for something with 1 ounce of silver rather than having 32 ounces of a whole kilo bar of gold? Guy says, keep the change. The other guy says, oh, thank you. Anyway, guys, let's move on and take a look at the markets today. Dollar signs. You guys that invested in gold, silver, and cryptos right now, you should have dollar signs in your eyes. Because this is what's going to happen. Quite seriously. Hang on. Don't get shaken out of the tree. You're right at the edge right now when it's all going to happen. And it's going to happen pretty quick now at this point forward. Silver price today, we see it shooting up, 27 cents up, 22.65. Gold today is at 1948. It's up $8.10. Now, looking at crypto, it's up to Bitcoin is 28,590, and Ethereum is at 1804. Taking a look at the stock market today, the S&P 500 is down 3 points at 39,999. Can it get closer to 4,000? Could it get any closer? 39,999. Oh boy. Dow Jones Industrial Average 38 points down at 32,521. Looking at the crude oil is up 56 cents at $70.23. Now, here's a little factoid. Crude oil. The Saudis are upset. I think it's called NOPEC. The United States wants to renew NOPEC. And the Saudis said, if you do that, we're gonna cut off the crude supply. You ain't gonna get none. No soup for you. If the Saudis, I can see the Saudis moving closer to, I can see things changing as regards to the petrodollar, really, big time now. And there's another factor. I haven't really talked about it in this show, but that's another factor, Taking a look at bonds and rates today, we're looking at long end falling and the short end rising. We're looking at the 10 years down 3.5 basis points at 3.57, and the U.S. 30 years down at 3.7, and it's down 3.1 basis points. And finishing off with the U.S. dollar index is at 103.15. So it's going to play out like this. Gold and silver are just going to keep going up and up and up to the moon over the next number of years. We're entering into the front side of the most massive bull market in gold and silver's history. Cryptocurrency is going to go up until infrastructure fails. and infrastructure will fail worldwide. It's not going to fail in all areas. There will be areas where they probably support the grid. But it's also going to coincide with this population decline. A massive population decline worldwide, along with the system. The system exploded, and credit spread everywhere, and so did humanity. And when the credit contracts, so will humanity. Will contract with it. And this is all going to happen pretty soon. And it could get to the point where this contraction gets so bad that humanity goes into such a decline that we are an endangered species because we've done things to the earth, bad things. One of the worst things that we've done to the earth is nuclear. Nuclear has profound effects upon the human body. It can cause things like sterility. It can decay your tissue, cancers, and everything else. Radiation. You know, kids growing up, 100 years ago, they didn't have any strontium-90 in their bones. Now we all do. Anyway, listen. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.